He laughed with his mouth full of ham and arrogance. Not everyone can handle a real career in tech, my brother Nick said, stabbing his fork into his plate like a mic drop. Some people just dabble. The entire table chuckled. Even my mother gave a soft, polite laugh, the kind you use when you don't want to pick a side. I sat there, cutting into my asparagus, like it hadn't just turned into glass in my mouth. My name is Aaron Cole, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been humiliated in a room full of people who claim to love you? Nick always had a way of dressing cruelty up as charm. The golden child with a shiny degree, the Tesla key fob, the six-figure job at that mid-tier cloud security firm no one outside his bubble could name. I was the artsy one, the startup founder, the risk taker. In our family, that meant unemployed with extra steps. I didn't respond, just smiled and reached for my wine. That's when Grandpa cleared his throat. Slowly, intentionally, like a man about to light a fire with a single match. Is that why your company just bought out his and laid him off? The room dropped into a vacuum. No sound. No movement. Even Nick's chewing stopped mid-bite. My mother blinked. My father dropped his fork. I met Grandpa's eyes. He knew. He'd read the news. The acquisition we'd kept quiet for legal reasons. The restructuring plan. The layoffs. The internal org chart I'd signed last week that included Nick's name in red. I hadn't said a word because it wasn't personal. It was business. But now? Now the truth sat there like a loaded gun in the middle of the mashed potatoes. Nick's voice cracked. Wait, what? I turned to him, calm, controlled. You'll get the official notice on Monday. HR's finishing up the final round. You knew, he choked out. I nodded. I built a better product. Your CEO agreed. Silence. Not a single soul moved. Grandpa raised his glass. To real careers in tech. And I just sat there, smiling. Because revenge doesn't always look like fire. Sometimes, it tastes like Easter dinner. Nick didn't speak the rest of the meal. Not one sarcastic jab. Not even a glance my way. He just stared down at his plate like it had personally betrayed him. And me? I passed the potatoes. Made small talk with Aunt Jean about her new backyard koi pond. Nodded along while my dad rambled about golf. But under the table, my hand was steady. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't have to defend myself to this family. I just had to exist and let the truth do the speaking for me. After dessert, Nick cornered me in the kitchen. You knew, he hissed. You sat there smiling while you let me get humiliated. No, I said, rinsing a plate. You humiliated yourself. I just didn't stop you. He stepped closer. This is personal. No, I said again calmly. You're just finally facing the consequences of thinking everyone else was beneath you. He scoffed. You've always been jealous. That made me laugh. Jealous of what? Your stock options? Your condescension? Nick, I built something that made yours obsolete. I didn't sabotage you. I evolved past you. He opened his mouth again, but Grandpa walked in. You all right, Nick? He asked, eyes narrowed, reading the room like a war veteran reads a battlefield. Nick stepped back. Fine, he muttered, just surprised. Grandpa looked at me, then at Nick. You always did talk too much, boy. Now you're gonna have to learn how to listen. Nick left after that. No goodbye. No handshake. Just the sound of his Tesla tires peeling off down the driveway. Later that night, as the house settled into its usual post-holiday silence, Grandpa sat next to me on the porch. You didn't have to do it like that, he said quietly. I didn't plan to, I replied. But he gave me the stage. He nodded, slowly. You've got your grandmother's blood. She never raised her voice. Just waited until people buried themselves. I smiled. Guess that gene skipped everyone else. Grandpa leaned back in his chair, hands folded. Let them call it revenge. But I see what it really is. What's that? Correction. And we sat there, quiet, as the weight of years of dismissal began to tilt, finally, in my favor. Monday morning came like a hammer. Nick's name was officially removed from the employee directory by noon. His email? Deactivated. His access badge? Flagged in red. I didn't touch a thing. My operations lead handled the offboarding. But I saw the alert when it pinged. Nicholas Cole, final separation confirmed. I didn't gloat. I didn't post. I didn't text a single soul in the family. But the silence? It traveled. By 5 p.m., my mother called. Her voice had that soft, fake concern she wore like perfume. Aaron, did you know about this? Your brother said that he was laid off by a company he mocked at Easter dinner? Yeah. I was there, remember? A pause. It just seems harsh.
No, Mom.
You know what was harsh? Sitting through 2 years of dinners while Nick rolled his eyes every time I mentioned my company. While he joked that I was playing CEO with my little toy startup. She sighed. He's family. And I was your daughter, I said sharply. But when he called me a joke, no one corrected him. Not once. She went quiet. Then, your father wants to talk. Of course he did. He got on the line and tried to be diplomatic, the same tone he used when explaining away Nick's tantrums as stress and mine as ungratefulness. I understand the acquisition was business, he said. But blindsiding your brother? That's not how we do things in this family. I nearly laughed. Dad, this family has never once supported me without adding quotation marks around the word career. And you're worried about blindsiding? You could have warned him. No, I said coldly. He could have read the market. He could have read the press release I published 6 weeks ago. He could have treated me like I belonged at the table. Dad didn't reply. Because there was nothing left to say. That night, I posted a photo on LinkedIn. Not gloating, just a quiet announcement. Proud to lead our growing team into the next phase of innovation. Today we finalized our largest acquisition to date. We build better. We rise together. No names. No shade. Just truth. Nick saw it. I know he did.
He didn't comment.
But he updated his profile the next morning. Open to work.
I didn't laugh.
Because this wasn't revenge anymore. This was gravity. And he was finally learning what it felt like to fall. By Friday, the ripple had reached everyone. My inbox lit up with messages from people Nick used to manage. Quiet gratitude disguised as professionalism. One read. Honestly, thank you. No one ever called him out. We just survived him. I didn't reply. Because I wasn't doing this for applause. I was doing it because for years, Nick was the gatekeeper. The golden boy. The voice at family dinners who decided whose job counted and whose dreams were cute. And now, he was unemployed. And I was the reason. Still, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. Until the text came in. From Nick. Coffee. I stared at it for a full minute. Not because I was tempted. Because I was curious. I agreed. Neutral ground. A small cafe 2 blocks from my office. He showed up late. Hoodie. Dark circles under his eyes. A man freshly evicted from his own ego. I'm not here to fight, he said, sliding into the seat across from me. Good, I replied. You'd lose. He gave a hollow laugh. I underestimated you. No, I said. You dismissed me. Every time I pitched a new product, every time I asked for advice, every time you rolled your eyes in front of Mom and Dad. You thought my work was small because it didn't look like yours. He looked down, stirred his untouched coffee. You know, when they told me who bought us out, I laughed. Thought it was a glitch in the system. Aaron? The UI girl? He looked up. But you weren't the glitch. I was. For a second, I saw it, the weight of realizing that the thing he mocked had quietly outbuilt him. I didn't gloat. I just said, So what do you want, Nick? He hesitated. I need work. I blinked. Are you asking me for a job? He nodded, once. Quiet. Hollow. For a long moment, I just sat there, watching him squirm in the same silence I used to drown in. Then I said, Nick, you fired 2 junior engineers for being too emotional during layoffs. Remember that. He flinched. You don't get to climb back in on the ladder you lit on fire. He opened his mouth, but I stood. Good luck, I said. I hear Starbucks is hiring. They have real careers, too. And I walked out. Because some power doesn't scream. It just walks away while they learn how cold rock bottom really is. After that coffee shop moment, Nick disappeared from my phone, from social media, from the family chat thread he used to dominate like a stage. For once, the silence wasn't mine to carry. At Sunday dinner the next week, his name hung heavy in the air like smoke. My mom poked at her casserole. My dad checked his watch twice. I didn't say a word. I brought a bottle of wine, contributed to small talk, laughed at Grandpa's dirty jokes, and passed the bread like I wasn't the elephant in the room, like I hadn't quietly dethroned their golden son. Then, halfway through dessert, my mother finally cracked. "You didn't have to humiliate him," she said, setting her fork down like a weapon. I looked at her.
Come. Clear.
"You raised a son who thought humiliation was sport. I just gave him a taste of his own medicine." My dad cleared his throat. "But he's struggling." "That's your brother, Aaron." I nodded. "And I was your daughter when you let him mock me at every table, every holiday, every time I did something different. Where was this concern when he called me a failure for starting my company? When he said I'd run back crying to a real job?" My mother blinked, like she hadn't realized the receipts had been there the whole time. "You could have warned him," she tried again, weaker this time. "And he could have respected me," I said. "But you don't get both. You don't get to raise a bully, reward him for it, and then flinch when he finally gets knocked off his throne." The table went quiet. Even Grandpa didn't say anything until he raised his glass, slow and deliberate.
To Aaron.
"Who didn't just build a company. She built a spine." My chest tightened. Not from pride, from relief. Because for the first time, someone saw me at that table.
Not as the black sheep.
Not as the artsy sister, but as the architect of her own revenge. Silent, clean, undeniable. That night, I walked out into the cool air and exhaled. Nick could sit in his echo chamber of consequence.
Me?
I had an empire to scale. And this time, no one was laughing. By the following month, I was speaking on a panel at a Women in Tech conference. Not just attending, headlining. I stood under white-hot lights beside founders I used to admire from a distance, all of us framed by a banner that read, "Redefining Power, Building Without Permission." When the moderator asked about obstacles, I didn't hesitate. "I wasn't underestimated by strangers," I said. "I was underestimated by family. People who claimed to love me while belittling the work I was doing in every conversation. People who laughed when I said I was building something from scratch." The audience went quiet, not uncomfortable, reverent. I kept going. They told me I'd come crawling back. That startups were toys. That real jobs had dental plans. But what I built swallowed their definitions whole. Later, backstage, I got a message on LinkedIn from one of Nick's old teammates. He's interviewing again, using your company name as leverage, saying he helped build some of the features your team launched last year. My jaw clenched. He was clinging to my architecture like driftwood. I forwarded the message to my legal team. By morning, we'd issued a cease and desist. Let him explain that at his next interview. Meanwhile, my team closed 2 new enterprise contracts. Our valuation jumped. Investors called me now, not the other way around. I didn't tell the family. They'd see it when it hit TechCrunch. But Grandpa called that week. Said he saw the interview. Said he watched the whole thing. Then poured himself a glass of bourbon. "You finally said it out loud," he told me. "I always knew you had it in you. But now the world does." "Thanks," I whispered. "It only took a decade of being doubted." He chuckled. "You were never the weak one, Aaron. You were just the quiet one. They mistook your silence for softness. But silence, that's just a weapon waiting to be drawn." After we hung up, I looked around my office. Not the one-bedroom startup closet anymore, but a full floor of glass and steel, humming with possibility. Nick had mocked my ambition. Then my ambition made him irrelevant. And I hadn't even raised my voice. The next family gathering was my dad's birthday. I didn't want to go. But Grandpa called the night before. "You've already won, kid," he said. "No need to flinch now. Let them sit in the kingdom you built." So, I went. Wore black slacks, sleek boots, a blouse that said boardroom but whispered battle ready. I brought a bottle of rare whiskey for my dad, the same kind he used to say was for people who actually achieved something. Nick was already there when I arrived. He didn't look at me. He didn't have to. He was thinner. Eyes tired. Jaw clenched like he was holding in the apology he'd never say. I sat 2 seats away. Let the night unfold like nothing had ever shifted. But everything had. When someone brought up tech, my aunt asking if that crypto thing was still a thing, Nick opened his mouth and paused, then closed it, because everyone at that table turned to me instead. And I answered.
Calm.
Articulate. Commanding. Because I'd been living the answers while he played CEO in borrowed titles. At the end of the night, Dad clapped me on the back. We're proud of you, you know. I smiled, but didn't soften. You never said that when I was building it in my garage. He swallowed. We didn't see it then. No, I said. You chose not to. He didn't argue, didn't deny, just nodded. It wasn't an apology, but it was a start. Nick lingered by the doorway when I grabbed my coat. You did it, he said. I turned. I know. He looked like he wanted to say more. Maybe something that sounded like sorry or save me, or at least help me. But I wasn't his safety net anymore. I was the storm he ignored until it broke his roof open.
So I left.
No hug, no speech, just the sound of my heels on tile. Steady and sharp. Because some victories don't need fireworks. Just a room full of people finally learning to shut up and listen. The article dropped on a Tuesday morning. From garage to giant. How Aaron Cole quietly built the company that changed the industry. Front page of Tech Foundry Weekly. They got it right. No gimmicks. No female founder angle with glitter and pity. Just a detailed breakdown of what I built. How I built it. And how I did it while being mocked. By rivals, by investors, by my own blood. I didn't send it to the family. Didn't need to. They saw it. By noon, my phone buzzed with messages. Old colleagues. College friends. Even an ex-boyfriend who once said I should probably marry someone with a real job. But one message stopped me cold. From Nick. No subject. No fluff. Just, you won.
I see that now.
I don't know who I am without being better than you. I stared at it, read it 3 times, and deleted it. Because this wasn't about winning anymore. This was about remembering who I was before they taught me to doubt it. That night, I walked through my office after everyone left. Paused by the framed newspaper on the wall, the first little feature we ever got. We taped it up with packing tape. I left the edges rough. On purpose. A reminder. We came from the ground. And we rose without permission. I stepped into my corner office, turned off the lights, and looked out at the city. Glowing. Buzzing.
Alive.
The empire was real. The silence was over. And Nick? He could keep telling himself whatever story made the mirror easier. But deep down he knew. He tried to laugh me off the table.
And now?
That table was mine.